Welcome back to the shop. Today, I'm going to step up my game. That's right, it's right there on the box, so I figured I had to say it. We're gonna be working on my parents' F-250. It's a 2022 Tremor, and it's got the Tremor running boards. Well, when Boost Auto reached out to me and said, hey, we'd love to send you a set of running boards or other accessories for your truck, I was kinda sad, because I already sold my truck. But I asked them if they'd be interested in having a set installed on somebody else's, i.e. mom and dad's truck. And they're like, yeah, sure, that'd be cool. So checked in with mom and dad, showed them what was available, and they were like, wow, those are pretty cool. I'd love to take a look at those. So here we are today. We've got our box of brackets and electrical, and we need to get these out and see what we're dealing with. This is all pretty anticlimactic here. And let's take a look at our actual running boards, get those out of the box. All right, here's the good stuff. Let's zip this guy out of here. Right. Lots more packaging. All right. Here's that electrical I was looking for. These are the plug and play harnesses. Ooh, these are the actual steps. That looks pretty sick, actually. Yeah. Camera guy likes them too. Oh, more electrical. Man, this is gonna be some guy's nightmare right here, I'm sure. We'll see how easy or hard it is. So you might be able to tell on the steps, they've got this padding on here. My mom is 5'3". I didn't want her slipping on the exterior shell, so they have this padding option, and we picked the red with hexagons. This is some sort of boat neoprene for anti-slip. Feels like it's got good texture. Definitely doesn't have the grip that the Rhino lined or rock lined or whatever lining is on the Tremor steps. So we'll see how that feels once we're getting a foot on there versus my hand sliding around. This is definitely gonna add some character to the side of the truck. And then you can see on this side, this is our light strip. And on the back here, you have your module connections. You could totally run these just like this with no electrical, no nothing, but what would be the fun in doing that? Let's go ahead and take a look at the height of the steps on the truck before I go ripping them off to get these on. That way we have an accurate comparison, bracket locations and everything to see if this limits, you know, for you Tremor guys and girls, your off-road capability. So a lot of folks are gonna have a concern about ground clearance, especially when you're talking about the Tremor running boards versus basically anything else. Obviously, mileage will vary depending on how high or low your truck is, what size tires you're running, but I'm just going to give you an example in this specific use case. These steps are sitting at about 21 5/8, and from a comparison standpoint, we'll see where our new steps wind up landing. This is my parents' truck like we've talked about, and they do some minor off-roading, so ground clearance is really not that much of an issue. It's more about getting their trailer and their side-by-side out to the campsite, then the side-by-side does most of the heavy off-roading. These are wicked, rugged, and fairly indestructible looking steps, stock Tremor ones. We'll also compare just how rugged these new steps look and a bunch of the other features. So obviously, wow, I'm glad I got my hard hat on. Obviously, once you're under the truck, you can do it on a lift, ideal. We've got 2 brackets on our Tremor unit here. The new ones will have 3 mounting brackets. These are just 13s holding these on here. So what I did, since this truck does see a little bit of off-road use, is I hit each one of these with some WD-40, and then I wiped off the threads with all the dirt and debris and whatnot. That way, hopefully, I'm not pulling them apart and dragging dirt through the threads. Yeah, there's still quite a bit of dirt on there. With our last nut off, thankfully the running board didn't want to fall off on me. I'm just gonna scoot it back and see, figure out which way I want to walk this thing out of here. It's pretty robust. Got the hard part out of the way, getting the old running boards. That's not the hard part. That was the easy part. Next, we got to get all our brackets on. All of these brackets are identical. You just slide them on each spot, no problem. We're going to start up front. It's going to be bracket, washer, and then lock nut. And we're going to cinch all these down, but we're not going to tighten them down until after we get the running boards on and we can get them adjusted. So our beauty covers are directional On the back, there's a slot to fit in depending on which side of the truck you're on. Up on the bracket, what you're trying to do is emulate the width of the bracket here. So we're gonna slide this up and over and drop this guy in place. It's got these little push rivet, screw rivets to hold it in place. Before we put our running board on, we need to get our T-bolts in the slot. And then we're gonna line them up approximately where the step supports are on the truck, and we'll throw them up there. From an installation perspective, you want your little module on the front. That's where we're gonna be connecting our harnesses. We're just setting it down, and then we can lift and get our T-bolts lined up. Helps if you have a helper. Not entirely necessary, but sure does make it more fun.
I'm trying to put it down and you're lifting it up. Come on.
You're trying to put it down on my fingers.
You're trying to lift it up.
Now our hardware is tiny. These are, we've got a flat washer, lock washer, and then a 10mm nut, which makes it like an M6 bolt or shank size, which honestly, we installed the other side already. That seems really lightweight for the girth of these 3/16 brackets. I can do a pull-up on the other side. It's plenty strong. It just feels really lightweight. Only time is gonna tell as far as the rigidity of these. This is just, the steps are like an extruded aluminum, I think, with these T-bolt clamp tracks here. So once we get all our hardware on, we can slide it back and forth. Their instructions online say not to tighten the primary brackets until you get, oh damn it.
I got it, I got it, I got it.
This hardware is tiny and fiddly up in there. Their instructions say not to tighten the main bracket until after you get everything on here and adjusted. I'm not sure why. I went ahead and tightened the brackets, and I can still slide this back and forth just fine. So the boards themselves can slide out and forward and backward. I lined up that running board over there with the back of the door opening here and the front of the door opening up here. And then what I did was tighten the middle here first and then the outside. And I've got my running boards pushed all the way in, at least for our base adjustment here. Yeah, now this needs to go in there. Let's separate this out a little bit. Okay, we ordered the rock light functionality, which means you need a switch. On my truck, I had the upfitter switches, which would have worked great for this. This truck didn't come with upfitter switches, so we're gonna wire in a hardwired switch to the front. This is actually really simple. You've got your switch, and it comes out to power lead with a fuse, and then these are our signal leads that go to each headlight harness, which is incorporated into our plug-and-play adapters. Totally worth it for this, and I'll show you why in just a minute. Then we have our two running board harnesses. The fused harness with the power leads, this one is going to go to the passenger side. The other harness is the slave harness, and it's going to go to the driver's side and then climb over to the passenger and plug in and daisy chain into a Y. In their instructions that we've been following online, they have a good YouTube video, shows all of this very clearly. They show removing the grille, the headlights, all the trim panels up in the engine bay. I'm kind of lazy though, so we're gonna go about this way easier. And I'm just gonna reach my arm up, you know, all the way in there, blind, and unplug the headlight. And then we'll plug this in, wire it all in. I mean, we're all mechanics, right? This is what we do. We just get in there however it has to happen to make it happen. Shooter knows what's going on. So we gotta get our harness down the fender with our connectors to the running board. And I don't have an old hanger. What I do have is a fish tape. So I'm just gonna tape these guys onto my fish tape, and then we'll see if we can drop it down in there. If your truck has the fender liners, you'll have a nice shot right down the top of the fender liner to get down there.
I don't see nothing yet.
Not yet. Should be coming in just a second.
It's already here.
There it is?
I got it.
Okay. With our harness hanging down below, we have to find somewhere to mount it. and there really isn't a whole lot of provision for this. In the video, they show you routing it out of sight. Well, there's not a whole lot of places to go out of sight here. On this side, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna zip tie it to this plastic piece and plug it in here, run it up along the parking brake cable, and then to the main harness. On the other side, I connected it to a ground harness. These connectors are pretty nice. Looks like good weather tight sealing on them, and they lock in very rigid way. I would have liked to see another bolt for the T-track with some sort of a hook to mount it directly to the T-track right there. I think that would have been really nice. And maybe even on these plastic trim pieces here, if there was something like a wire retainer or something that you weren't running zip ties, that would have been really nice as well. Now that we've gotten started up on our electrical, we got to get our batteries disconnected. I disconnected my secondary battery already. Now we'll go ahead and get our primary disconnected. These batteries are due for replacement. They're sulfating really bad, which is a Ford problem. Well, technically it's not a Ford problem, it's a lead acid battery issue. And it's easily fixed with a set of AGMs. Take a look at my video down below where I fixed this issue on my F-350. So while I'm doing everything I can to avoid removing the grille and the headlights and the bumper and all that stuff, I am gonna have to pop this cover off so that our harness that runs across here to connect to the other side, the Y in the harness, can get hidden down underneath here. It's just got a bunch of these little push rivets. Oh, we got the whole bee's nest in here. Jeepers.
Oh, whoa.
Busy bumblebees.
That's a little bit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh man, I don't know how this thing breathes at all. We've got our driver's side harness up and over. I've got my rock light harness. This side is gonna be going to the cab, so temporarily until I figure out how to get through the firewall, what I'm just gonna do is wrap this up and over in an approximate fashion of where it's gonna wind up going following this driver's side harness. And then it looks like this side of it is going to come over to the passenger side, so we'll just wrap that up out of the way. And then we have one connector, guessing the longer of the two, is going to go over to the passenger headlight as well. Now that we kind of have this oriented a little bit, we know that these two wires need to drop down to the headlight. As you can see, I haven't taken the headlight out. Come over here and I'll show you why. So we need to get our plug and play harness plugged in. What I did was I just took the single bolt out of the bottom of the fender liner and the push pin clip here, and then I can reach up. That's the back of our headlight. So you do have to reach up to get to the harness right there, and we'll plug it in. We'll drag this guy up in there and plug it in after we pull our harness down from up top, and we'll get our little extra wire locked into place. This one, heat shrinked. You'll see what I mean.
Okay, I am ready to receive.
Should pop out
Got it.
any moment now.
Yeah, got it right here.
Now that we've got our harness dropped down behind our fender liner, we can plug our plug and play in all the way until the little clips lock into place. And then we need to connect our rock light harness here. Yep, that wasn't tight enough. All right, I'm gonna cut that off. And I'm gonna put a different crimp on there.
Take 3.
I'm gonna use one of these OEM style crimps from BMW because it's guaranteed to work. A little micro crimp.
That is really, really small.
That's nice and tight. Got OEM heat shrink. I'm gonna leave this just a little long so that I can tape it down. All right, not coming out of that.
Well, that worked much better.
So I'll heat shrink that in place, and then I'm gonna tape up this whole connection right there. This will help with chafe resistance. Got a nice tight connection, good weather tight crimp. This one, not so much. I didn't like the way that crimped down. Now, pull our headlight harness over here. Snapple dapple. What I'm doing is I'm orienting myself with which side the lock is gonna be on. This is a little bit different lock than the factory connector. You've got this red tab that you're gonna lock into place once it's pushed in. Locks into place, no problem though. And our harness fits right back in the cubby. Down below, all we gotta do is push our Christmas tree back in and our 10mm in the fender. That's it. We've got our wiring stretched across, and I went ahead and I wrapped the entire loom in Tessa tape, which is this fabric automotive tape. And I've got it stuffed down in the corner over here. I'm gonna take my ground and I'm gonna go to my grounding block here. For the positive, you've got a nice junction box right here on these trucks. And rather than just jumping right onto the positive terminal, I took the cover off and I'm gonna be adding, and I think it's an M6, M8. I'm gonna add a nut to it and put my positive terminals right onto a junction box. You've got 2 spare lines on this truck, 125 amp and a 200 amp, which means we're gonna be fine with this like 8 amp load here. So our 2 lines here, we have 1 fusible link on this side and the other fusible link on this side. It was a little too short for me to run around this way, so I ran it around over here. So there'll be a fuse there and a fuse here. Good reference for you pops in the future if anything goes wrong here. 4 ugga-duggas on that line.
Go ahead and just slowly pull through.
Start pulling.
We're going.
Tell me when we get to the insert point.
Insert point, you're coming through already.
Okay.
So go ahead and just pull through, you're in already.
All right, the dielectric grease, I could feel that working really well.
Yeah, that just went right in. So go ahead and keep pulling a bit to just straighten out this cable right here.
Yeah, I'm just getting this out of the way a little bit.
Good, that's good right there. That's
Good
tight.
right there?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Nice. Well, pretty good. Seems pretty.
Oh, I didn't turn this one on.
Oh.
Oh, man.
Well, I had mine on.
Now it's on. Dang it. Our little connector for the rock lights, what I've decided and I've concurred with Mom and Dad, is we're gonna put it right up at the top of our switch panel here so that it's visible. So hopefully we don't leave the rock lights on. To get this guy down, it's just a bunch of little clips. Reach in there and you yank back and it'll pop out and it folds out nicely like this. I'm going to be using a step bit and I want to go to the right of our push pin here and pretty much in the middle should be just about dandy. And we're going almost to 7/8. Now try to remember not to drill through the back of your finger. Whoa, that goes fast.
Oh, that went really fast.
It's okay. We didn't go too far.
That would be the bad part.
This thing is just like eating its way in there.
It's like, yeah, plastic. I'll go through it.
Eat that up. We're gonna put our wires through here. You saw how we ran our wires in. So you can see here, we're not gonna have a lot of room to disconnect this panel in the future, but it can tilt out right here. Clip everybody back in here. Well, we've got them installed, and I don't think ground clearance is gonna be an issue. I can tell, barely, that they're a little bit taller. And when we measure them out to the top of our foam pad, we're looking at 22 inches, where before we were about 21 5/8. Now, I didn't measure underneath for true ground clearance. More what I was looking for is, can my little 5'2", 5'3" mom get up on here and in? And she actually just left from coming to look at it, and she did just fine. Down underneath is about the same amount of clearance, visually speaking, that the old running boards had.
The old ones were 21 1/4 at the bottom.
At the bottom? Mm-hmm. Okay, that's good to know. So Judah measured 21 1/4 at the bottom. Let's see. These, okay, these are 19 1/2 to the bottom. So a little bit less space, plus the bracketry. So just bear that in mind. Let's go ahead and we're gonna get the truck backed out and we'll take a look at these bad boys in action. So let's talk about some of the things that I
don't like about these.
There aren't many. It's actually a pretty nice setup here. Earlier we talked about the little plastic covers, and now that they're installed, I like the way they look. In practical use, they're really not going to do anything other than sit there and look nice. I would like to see some sort of integration on 2 covers for like harness control. Here on the driver's side, it was a lot easier to get down and under through here. I'd like to see something with the T-bolts with a clamp right here on that harness so you can wrap it down and around. And maybe if they plugged in underneath, instead of going towards the inside of the car, they came into the step somehow. A little bit better harness mitigation would be fantastic. The little plastic things, iffy on those. The way that the foam is cut is a little jagged. It doesn't look bad by any means. It actually looks nice and it's uniform the way it's cut. But I don't know, I'm nitpicking here, obviously. Let's look at some of the functionality. So I'm gonna see if I can get the startup sequence. Don't mind the hood being up. We had a battery lose a cell while the truck was here, so we gotta put a set of batteries in this too. There we go. So we got it with this startup sequence. We didn't get sequential or any of the other options because this is the one that my mom wanted. She already saw this and she was completely enamored. I like it. As you can see, it's not quite dark yet. They are very bright and there's a lot of light there. As far as the other options that we got the rock light option. We put the switch right there by the steering wheel and that's pretty nice. I think that's gonna add quite a bit of lighting to the scene, and when mom and dad are out camping, it'll be nice to be able to get around. However, the only con on this system is because we do have a hardwired link to the battery. I noticed if I shut the door and I lock it, these things are gonna stay on. I could be wrong, maybe the truck is gonna power down and some sort of signal will go through the headlights, but I don't think so because I believe the rock light switch is an override. That wouldn't be a problem if you had the upfitter switches because I believe those get overridden by the power management system in the truck. This is something that's yet to be seen, but this could be an issue with dead batteries if you forget and leave the rock lights on. Grandma and Grandpa, my parents, affectionately known by my kids, might do. I made sure, like I said, I put that switch up high right here. I double checked it with mom and dad that they were comfortable with that location. I got the truck running real quick so that we can see all the different operational modes while driving. You can see right now that the lights aren't on and I've got the headlights turned off. Because they are wired directly into the headlights, they only turn on when you have the running lights on or if the headlights are on, like right now in auto mode. When they're on, you've got this beautiful amber on the side. And we picked the normal turn signals that line up with our turn signals on the mirror and on the headlights instead of the sequential or the offset or any of the other ones. You got lots of options here. They're all down on their website, on the Boost Auto website. This is pretty cool. It's really bright and very noticeable. I don't know what else to say about them. They're pretty cool. You know, my mom asked me, would I put them on my truck? And I said, no. I had the drop down steps and I'm lazy and I didn't want to step up this high. But if I'd had a normal set of steps, I would have definitely put them on my truck. I like the way these look way better than just a plain old step. I think it adds a ton of flair. So if you're interested in a set of steps like this, I've got a link down below. Take a look at that link. Take a look at their website. They've got different images and videos of all the different options that these things have. They're pretty cool. Super easy install. There was a couple of things that I was kind of fiddly with and I thought, well, it's probably how all of these things are. The wiring wasn't all that bad, and as you saw, I was able to do it without pulling the headlights out. If you use the hardwire kit and you got to get back there and crimp, you're gonna have to pull the headlights. In my case, with the plug and play connectors, those things were awesome. Everything's all set up. We're good to go. Thanks for watching. Take a look at some of my other videos. I look forward to seeing you on the next one.